The expedition had begun, leading us to a pivotal moment that would resonate through history, shaping not only the outcome of our mission but also the very essence of our leadership and camaraderie. This moment became a point of reference, both a beacon guiding our decisions and a shadow cast over our failures. At the heart of this unfolding drama was a seemingly simple yet profoundly significant statement from Lieutenant George Wallace. In his official report titled Report of the Chief of Engineers, Appendix, Report of Lieutenant George D. Wallace, 7th Cavalry, St. Paul, Minimum, January 27, 1877, Wallace noted with stark precision, at 12 m, on the 25th, we crossed the divide between the Rosebud and Little Bighorn. Such a straightforward detail belied the chaos and uncertainty that surrounded us. He further echoed this account during the Reno Inquiry in January 1879, asserting, "We started out at 11:45. At 12:05 the march halted, and the division into battalions was made. It moved on at 12:12. That's the only record of time I have. In the heat of battle, it's difficult to fathom how anyone in the command could focus on such precise minutiae amidst the cacophony of gunfire and the weight of impending conflict." Yet, these timestamps held a weight far beyond their numeric value. They were threads woven into the fabric of a tense narrative, each second ticking down to a moment that would alter the course of our lives forever. Each recollection was laden with the burden of accountability, with the echoes of regret trailing closely behind. In that tense atmosphere, where every decision could mean the difference between life and death, Wallace's meticulous record became a double-edged sword, a tool for clarity and a weapon for blame. As the dust settled on that fateful day, the implications of his words would reverberate through the ranks, influencing perceptions of leadership and trust. Who could bear the responsibility for the choices made that day? And who could truly grasp the intricate dance of fate and fortune that unfolded with every tick of the clock? These questions haunted us, intertwining with our shared experience, as we trudged forward into the unknown. Wallace's insistence on precision raises compelling questions. Did he truly pause to check his pocket watch on a remote ridgeline, surrounded by the palpable tension of impending conflict? With so many men consumed by the daunting challenges ahead, like Benteen, whose sharp eyes captured the massive trail of Native Americans, they were likely far more occupied with the threats looming in the distance than with the ticking of a clock. The path they followed bore the scars of previous encounters, littered with remnants of once massive Indian encampments, each sign a stark reminder of the fierce opposition they faced. As Benteen keenly observed, they were acutely aware that 8,000 to 10,000 Native Americans were likely nearby, based on the evidence of their recent movements. The size and location of the enemy village became a point of heated debate among the ranks, sowing seeds of uncertainty and anxiety that weighed heavily on their shoulders. In this atmosphere thick with apprehension, the soldiers grappled with their nerves, their minds racing through a cacophony of more immediate concerns. They were far more focused on survival than on the minutiae of keeping time. As the regiment neared its second halt, likely between 10 and 10:30 a.m., the air crackled with tension. Events began to unfold with alarming speed. Custer, sharp-eyed and resolute, observed the regiment's arrival, his pulse quickening as he soon encountered his brother on the valley floor. What would transpire in the moments to follow hung heavily in the air, a delicate balance of fate and fear. Every decision made in that critical instant would echo through time, reverberating not only in the hearts of the soldiers but also in the annals of history. With the enemy's presence looming like a storm on the horizon, the stakes could not have been higher, and the weight of their choices would soon become unbearable. Not long after, an officers' meeting was convened, a hurried gathering charged with urgency as the weight of the mission pressed heavily upon them. The air was thick with tension as discussions with the scouts unfolded, each word laced with the gravity of their situation. Soon after, the regiment was back on the move, their spirits buoyed by a shared determination, yet tinged with an undercurrent of anxiety. Accounts from the field, particularly those of Luke Hare and Miles Moylan, suggest that this halt lasted no more than an hour, an almost fleeting pause in the grand scheme of their journey. Moylan even noted that they stopped at the foot of the divide, a decision that would not only shorten their halt but also reduce the distance they had to traverse. The notion of a noon crossing, therefore, aligns well with these testimonies, especially when considering that the pivotal decision to attack wasn't made until around 11 a.m. through the years. Wallace remained adamant about the noon crossing, his insistence unwavering amidst the swirling clouds of doubt and speculation. His claim found support among many others within the ranks. For instance, Captain Thomas Mower McDougall, the commander of B Company, recounted that around 11 a.m., he received orders to take charge of the pack train as the rearguard, a critical responsibility that would place him directly on the divide between the Rosebud and Little Bighorn. As these pieces of the puzzle began to align, a picture of impending conflict emerged. Each officer's recollection, each moment captured in memory, served as both a testament to their commitment and a reminder of the stakes at hand. With every passing second, the atmosphere grew heavier, charged with the awareness that they were on the precipice of a confrontation that would define not only their fates but the very course of history itself. Though McDougall used the term "on" loosely, suggesting that the order arrived as they approached the divide, it was evident that he received the assignment before the regiment split into battalions. This was one of the many consequences of being the last to report to General Custer, a position fraught with both responsibility and pressure. As the pieces of the timeline began to fall into place, notable figures from the campaign emerged to support the chronology. In his 1892 treatise for Century magazine, Godfrey asserted that the command crossed the divide just before noon, a claim that echoed through the annals of history. Gustav Matthey, tasked with managing the pack mules, testified during the Reno inquiry that they likely began their march between 11 a.m. and noon, although he candidly admitted that his recollection was not definitive, an acknowledgement that reflected the chaotic nature of the events they faced. Adding further weight to the timeline, Private Giovanni Martini, a Custer orderly, confirmed that the regiment indeed crossed the divide at noon, right after the officers' meeting. Private Charles Windhoff also lent his voice to this narrative, recalling the troops' formation and movement just shortly before noon, his memories painted with the vivid strokes of urgency and anticipation. For decades, the exact number of soldiers who perished at the Battle of Little Bighorn remained a contentious topic, a subject of heated debate among historians and military enthusiasts alike. Each account, each piece of testimony, contributed to the growing tapestry of a tragic event that would come to symbolize the clash of cultures and the ferocity of war. As the hours ticked by, the looming confrontation drew ever closer, a storm gathering on the horizon, ready to unleash its fury and alter the course of history. Similarly, estimates of Native American casualties from the Battle of Little Bighorn vary widely, ranging from a mere 30 to staggering figures exceeding 300. Yet, one fact remains indisputable. George Custer rode into battle commanding 5 companies, C, E, F, I, N, and L, along with a headquarters contingent of 12 to 17 men. Their destruction is a well-documented chapter in history, but it also serves as a stark reminder that the structure of the 5-company division is as fundamental to the narrative of the battle as Custer's leadership on that fateful day. It is well established that this division of command occurred shortly after the regiment crossed the divide. As tensions mounted, Custer called for a brief halt, a moment of respite in the charged atmosphere. He quickly issued orders that would dictate the course of the impending clash. Benteen, entrusted with companies D, H, and K, was directed to move left, veering away from the main column, a decision that would ripple through the unfolding events. Meanwhile, Major Reno, commanding companies A, G, and M, advanced along the left side of a small creek, his path fraught with the weight of uncertainty. At the same time, Custer, flanked by Captains Keogh and Yates, led the 5 companies and headquarters down the right side, the air thick with anticipation. Each leader was acutely aware that their decisions would soon shape the outcome of a battle that would become legendary, with far-reaching implications for both sides. As they positioned themselves, the tension in the air became almost tangible, a prelude to the chaos that was about to ensue. In those critical moments, the divergent paths taken by the commanders would intertwine, leading to a confrontation that would forever alter the landscape of American history. The stage was set, and the fateful clash loomed ever closer, an impending storm ready to unleash its fury. Meanwhile, McDougall's B Company took on the critical task of escorting the pack train at the rear, a position of both responsibility and vulnerability. This escort was reinforced by 7 men from each company, creating a fortified line that guarded the essential supplies and equipment necessary for the regiment's survival. The rhythmic clatter of the mules' hooves echoed through the rugged terrain, a constant reminder of the logistical backbone supporting the advancing troops. In hindsight, the exact minute the regiment crossed the divide might appear trivial to some, a mere footnote in the broader narrative of the battle. However, this seemingly insignificant detail is pivotal in unraveling the sequence of timing and decisions that culminated in the tragic events at Little Bighorn. In the realm of military operations, precision is paramount. Nothing is left to chance. This principle held true in 1876 as steadfastly as it does in modern warfare, underscoring the meticulous nature of military strategy and command. Officer assignments, for instance, adhered to a rigid hierarchy grounded in rank and seniority. At the Battle of Little Bighorn, Major Marcus Reno stood second only to General George Custer in rank, positioning him as the natural choice to lead one of the battalions. In such high-stakes scenarios, the highest-ranking officers are entrusted with the most significant and strategic responsibilities, ensuring that leadership is both effective and authoritative. Reno, with his extensive experience and unwavering demeanor, was thus assigned command of a key battalion, a role that would place him at the forefront of the ensuing conflict. The leadership of the other units followed a similar pattern, with seniority dictating who would command each battalion. This structured approach was designed to maintain order and efficiency, allowing the regiment to operate seamlessly despite the chaos of impending battle. Each officer, aware of the gravity of their assignments, carried the weight of their responsibilities with a sense of duty and honor. The orderly distribution of command roles ensured that every battalion had a capable leader, poised to execute Custer's overarching strategy. As the regiment moved forward, the tension among the officers was palpable. The weight of their decisions bore down on them, each aware that their actions could mean the difference between victory and disaster. The disciplined hierarchy, while essential for maintaining structure, also introduced an element of rigidity that would later prove to be a critical factor in the unfolding tragedy. The seamless coordination expected within such a hierarchy became a double-edged sword, where strict adherence to orders sometimes clashed with the fluid dynamics of the battlefield. In those final moments before engagement, the regiment stood as a microcosm of military precision and human frailty. The officers, each a pillar of authority, faced the immense pressure of leadership, their decisions intertwined with the fate of their men. As the sun reached its zenith, casting long shadows over the divide, the stage was set for a confrontation that would etch itself into the annals of history. The interplay of rank, responsibility, and the harsh realities of war converged, setting the tone for the harrowing events that were about to unfold at Little Bighorn. Captain Frederick Benteen, a seasoned veteran who earned a Civil War brevet of colonel and held a rank date of July 28, 1866, stood as the senior captain within the 7th Cavalry. Following closely behind him was Captain Miles Keogh, who, despite sharing the same date of rank as Benteen, held a brevet 1 grade lower, positioning him second in seniority. Captain George Yates claimed the third spot, while Captain Thomas Benton Weir, the commander of D Company, rounded out the leadership hierarchy. When the 7th Cavalry departed from Fort Abraham Lincoln on May 17, Custer initially devised a strategic plan that involved splitting his regiment into two wings, a tactical maneuver that would prove crucial in the battles to come. He assigned Reno and Benteen as leaders of these wings, each commanding a battalion that would soon face the trials of the battlefield. Under their command were two battalions each, led by the capable hands of Keogh and Yates, as well as Weir and Captain Thomas Henry French of M Company. Each battalion was structured to include 3 companies, demonstrating the careful organization of Custer's forces. The total strength of the regiment was impressive, comprising 738 officers and enlisted men. They were accompanied by 2 civilians, 5 quartermaster employees, and an invaluable contingent of 43 Native American scouts, 38 Arikara and 5 Dakota, bringing the entire force to a formidable 788. This diverse assembly of soldiers and scouts was a testament to the complex tapestry of alliances and relationships forged on the frontier, each individual playing a vital role in the unfolding drama. As the regiment advanced, the weight of their collective experiences and backgrounds loomed large. Benteen, with his battle-hardened resolve, brought a wealth of knowledge from his Civil War service, while Keogh's unwavering determination fueled the spirit of the men. Yates and Weir, too, contributed their unique strengths, each officer aware of the heavy burden they carried as leaders entrusted with the lives of their troops. This well-structured command structure was designed not only to optimize military efficiency but also to instill confidence among the ranks. As they moved deeper into hostile territory, the interplay of leadership and camaraderie would be put to the ultimate test, each decision echoing with the potential for glory or tragedy. The diverse backgrounds of the scouts added an additional layer of complexity, offering insights and strategies rooted in their intimate knowledge of the land and its peoples. As the sun shone down on the regiment, illuminating the path ahead, the stakes grew ever higher. Each man understood that the coming days would be fraught with danger, and the strength of their unity and the effectiveness of their command structure would be critical in the face of the challenges they would soon encounter. The scene was set for a monumental confrontation, where valor and strategy would clash against the harsh realities of war, forever etching the 7th Cavalry's name into the annals of history. However, the numbers of the regiment began to dwindle significantly along the arduous journey. After leaving 125 men at the Powder River Depot, the ranks thinned further with the loss of 11 Arikara scouts, 1 Dakota scout, and several men due to desertion, sickness, or detached duties. By the time they pressed on, only about 655 men remained, an eclectic mix of white, Native American, and black soldiers, clad in both military uniforms and civilian attire. The toll of the journey didn't end there. Custer's orders further reduced their numbers as he directed 7 men from each company to assist with the pack train, a decision that left the fighting force even more vulnerable. The need for logistics was undeniable, yet it came at a steep price, sacrificing manpower in the face of looming conflict. Interestingly, while many names of the soldiers assigned to the packs are well documented, especially those from Reno and Benteen's companies, as well as McDougall's Company B escort, the exact identities of some remain shrouded in uncertainty. For instance, only a handful of men from Companies A, G, H, and K are known to history, their fates either sealed by survival or marked by the tragic events that unfolded on Reno Hill. In stark contrast, the soldiers from the 5 companies that fell under Custer's command are more easily traced. Their stories, marked by valor and sacrifice, have been woven into the fabric of history, creating a clearer narrative of their experiences and the harrowing fate that awaited them. Each name represents not just a soldier, but a life intertwined with the larger tale of the Battle of Little Bighorn, where heroism and tragedy would soon collide in a cataclysmic confrontation. As the regiment pressed onward, the shadows of loss began to cast a long pall over the ranks, reminding them of the challenges they faced, not only from the enemy ahead but also from the unforgiving realities of their own journey. With every step, the weight of their dwindling numbers grew heavier, each man acutely aware that the fight was not just against a formidable foe, but also against the specter of attrition that threatened to undermine their resolve. The stage was set for a battle that would test the limits of their courage and determination, forever marking the legacy of those who stood united in the face of overwhelming odds. Survivors from the pack train predominantly hailed from Company C, which had 8 men assigned, while Company I contributed 9 men, Company L provided 13, Company E added another 9, and Company F contributed its own contingent. Many of these soldiers found themselves burdened with additional responsibilities, tending to horses, serving as personal cooks, or acting as orderlies, roles that, while essential, often left them feeling distanced from the unfolding drama of battle. As the fateful day approached, some men from these companies, including 5 from Company C, others from Company I, 2 from Company E, and 1 from Company F, were known to have straggled back to Reno's position. These soldiers, though spared from the immediate dangers of combat, faced a different battle, grappling with the necessity to explain their absence from their units. Many were reluctant to admit any perceived wrongdoing, their reluctance rooted in a fierce desire to maintain their honor amidst the chaos of war. On June 22, as the regiment inched closer to its inevitable confrontation, Custer made a pivotal decision to dissolve the existing wing and battalion assignments, a move aimed at restructuring the units for the impending combat. This shift, a reflection of the urgency of the situation, sought to optimize their readiness for the battle that loomed on the horizon. According to historian Bruce Liddick, Custer retained the original Keogh-Yates configuration when reassigning companies near the divide, with Keogh losing Company B to the pack train yet still leading Companies I and C as the soldiers prepared for the clash. the atmosphere was thick with tension and anticipation. The weight of their individual choices loomed heavily, each man acutely aware that their next steps could determine not only their fates but the fate of their comrades as well. The reorganization of the units was not merely a logistical necessity, it was a critical recalibration of their strategy, a final adjustment before they stepped into the annals of history. With the echoes of uncertainty surrounding them, the soldiers steeled themselves for the trials ahead, their collective resolve forming the backbone of a force that would soon face the tempest of battle. Yates retained command of Companies E, F, and L, a configuration that mirrored the original assignments made at Fort Lincoln. However, interpretations of command structure diverge among historians. Experts like Jack Pennington argue that Keogh actually commanded Companies I and L, with Custer and the headquarters unit accompanying Yates and Companies C, E, and F in contrast. Other historians, John Gray, Greg Micknow, and Robert J. Kershaw, assert that Yates led Companies E and F while Keogh was in charge of Companies C, I, and L. According to their analysis, it is likely that Custer and his headquarters remained on the ridges with Keogh, sending Yates ahead to Medicine Tail Ford, a strategic move in anticipation of the forthcoming engagement. Given the weight of the evidence, the most logical command breakdown appears to be Keogh overseeing Companies C, I, and L, while Yates directed Companies E and F. This interpretation finds further support from archaeologist Richard Allen Fox, Jr., who has dedicated extensive research to unraveling the intricacies of this historical moment. Additional corroboration comes from key figures present at the time, including Sergeant Daniel A. W. Smith, whose observations and accounts provide a valuable perspective on the organizational structure and movements of the companies. As the pieces of this command puzzle begin to align, it becomes increasingly clear that the dynamics of leadership and the decisions made in those critical hours would play a pivotal role in the outcome of the battle. With each historian contributing their unique insights, the picture of command at Little Bighorn becomes both complex and layered, reflecting the tumultuous nature of the events that were about to unfold. As the soldiers braced for the impending clash, the stakes were higher than ever, and the clarity of their command structure would prove essential in navigating the chaos of battle. Kniep of Company C and First Sergeant James Hill of Company B both confirmed that Company C was assigned to Keogh, an arrangement that adhered closely to military protocol and Custer's unwavering attention to rank and hierarchy. This confirmation is critical, as it underscores the strategic decisions made in the heat of battle, reflecting Custer's commitment to maintaining order amid chaos. Lieutenant Edgerly further echoed this sentiment in a heartfelt letter to his wife, Grace, written shortly after the battle. In his correspondence, he emphasized that Keogh's command was assigned strictly in accordance with his rank on the day of the fight, reinforcing the importance of military structure and guiding their actions. Additional support for Keogh commanding 3 companies while Yates led 2 comes from Miles Moylan's testimony during the Reno inquiry. When questioned about the battalion assignments, Moylan stated, "I afterward ascertained that Major Reno had a battalion, Captain Benteen had 1, Captain Keogh had 1, and Captain Yates had 1. Each of these battalions I have named consisted of 3 companies except Captain Yates, which had 2 companies. Captain McDougall, being absent with the pack train, accounted for the other." This testimony not only corroborates the organizational structure on the battlefield but also paints a vivid picture of the intricate web of command under pressure. Moylan's insights reveal the fluid dynamics of leadership during the battle, emphasizing how rank and duty intertwined with the realities of combat. As the dust of conflict began to settle, the clarity of these assignments became crucial. Each captain's leadership would be put to the ultimate test, and the ramifications of their positions would reverberate throughout the course of the battle. With each testimony and confirmation, a clearer narrative of the events leading to the fateful clash at Little Bighorn emerged, highlighting the tension and stakes that lay ahead for every soldier involved. Perhaps the most compelling evidence for the command structure during the Battle of Little Bighorn comes from the final disposition of bodies found on the battlefield. The positions where the fallen were discovered aligned closely with the established breakdown of command, reinforcing the notion that Keogh commanded 3 companies while Yates led 2. This alignment provides a poignant glimpse into the organization of forces in the heat of combat, suggesting a tactical arrangement consistent with military protocol. Custer's fateful decision to split his forces remains a subject of heated debate among historians. Yet, the organizational structure he employed that day was undeniably shaped by rank and military tradition. As Nick Wallace recalls, the 7th Cavalry crossed the divide around noon, a detail widely accepted as fact. However, some finer aspects of the timeline remain contentious and have sparked ongoing discussions among scholars. Lieutenant Edgerly, reflecting years later, asserted that battalion assignments were made at 10 a.m. However, this timing seems dubious, likely blurred by the passage of time and the fog of memory. The chaos of battle often distorts recollections, leaving room for uncertainty in the details that matter most. Shortly after crossing the divide, Custer halted the column, a moment of strategic pause amid the mounting tension. He, alongside his adjutant, stepped aside to jot down notes, an act of leadership that would prove critical in the unfolding events. Witnesses reported seeing the pair scribbling on paper for a few minutes, their actions perhaps an attempt to solidify their strategy or document vital information as the clouds of conflict gathered ominously on the horizon. In these fleeting moments of preparation, the weight of command pressed heavily upon Custer's shoulders. Every word penned carried the potential to shape the lives of the soldiers under his command. As they readied themselves for what lay ahead, the stakes grew ever higher, a reminder that the line between triumph and tragedy often hangs by the thinnest of threads. Benteen estimated that the time taken was around 15 minutes, however, this claim seems somewhat exaggerated in hindsight. Eventually, Benteen received the summons he had been waiting for. He was assigned command of his battalion and given specific orders to proceed to a line of bluffs approximately 2 miles away. He was instructed to send a well-mounted officer and 10 men ahead to scout for any Native Americans in the vicinity and to report back immediately with any findings. Benteen's account of these orders has remained consistent over time. He reiterated the details to the New York Herald in August 1876 during the Reno Inquiry and later recounted them in his personal writings from the 1890s. His steadfast recollection underscores the gravity of the moment and the burden of leadership he carried. Supporting Benteen's version of events was Captain Edward Godfrey, who commanded a company within Benteen's battalion. Godfrey corroborated that Benteen's battalion was indeed ordered to advance toward a line of high bluffs situated about 3 or 4 miles away. The instructions were clear. If any enemy forces were spotted, they were to notify Custer immediately. Yet, if no opposition was encountered, they were to continue their advance without hesitation, a directive that reflected the urgent need for reconnaissance in a landscape fraught with uncertainty. As Benteen's battalion moved out, the atmosphere was charged with a mix of anticipation and dread. Each officer and soldier understood the stakes involved. Their decisions could very well dictate the outcome of the impending confrontation. The bluffs loomed ahead, an uncertain terrain that would soon become the backdrop for decisions that would reverberate through history. In this tense moment, the interplay of command and communication became pivotal. Every second counted as Benteen and his men pressed onward, driven by a sense of duty and the weight of responsibility to their comrades still under Custer's command. The march toward the bluffs was not just a tactical maneuver. It was a race against time, as the specter of conflict drew ever closer. Godfrey's account of the orders appears to have been influenced by conversations with Benteen, as no other officers were present to witness the directives given. Despite some critics suggesting that Benteen acted out of treachery or personal disdain for Custer, the mission he was assigned holds considerable strategic merit. Ensuring that the upper valley was free of hostile forces was critical in preventing the regiment from being flanked, a tactical necessity in the unpredictable landscape of battle. Adding another layer to this narrative, author Roger Darling introduced a variation of these orders, citing a letter from Frank Gibson, Benteen's first lieutenant. In this correspondence, Gibson articulated that Benteen was to intercept any Native Americans attempting to flee up the Little Bighorn Valley and drive them back toward the main village. This interpretation of the orders presents a compelling perspective, suggesting a proactive approach to the unfolding conflict. While Darling's take on the letter adds a touch of intrigue and complexity to the orders, it is essential to recognize that Gibson's actual words reinforce the notion that Benteen's orders were firmly rooted in tactical considerations. The emphasis on intercepting escaping forces underscores the necessity of maintaining control over the battlefield and mitigating threats to the regiment. As Benteen moved forward with his battalion, the implications of his orders weighed heavily on his mind. Each decision made in those moments was not only about immediate actions but also about the broader strategy that could determine the fate of his comrades. The stakes were undeniably high, and the pressure to perform effectively in the face of adversity loomed large. In this tense atmosphere, the blurred lines between loyalty, strategy, and command became increasingly pronounced, as Benteen navigated the delicate balance of fulfilling his orders while remaining acutely aware of the ever-present danger surrounding the 7th Cavalry. The unfolding events were not just a matter of following orders but rather a testament to the complexities of leadership under fire, where each choice could reverberate through the annals of history. Benteen was tasked with clearing the area, pushing forward, and ensuring the regiment's safety. Moreover, Gibson explicitly stated that Benteen was not guilty of disobedience, emphasizing that he was following orders to the letter. In a further demonstration of his commitment, Benteen ordered Gibson to take 6 of the strongest horses and race over the hills to scout for any escaping Native Americans, an action that reinforced his adherence to his role and responsibilities. However, Benteen's personal feelings about the mission appeared to be more complex than mere compliance. Reports indicate that he once questioned Custer directly, asking, "Shouldn't we keep the regiment together? If this camp is as big as they say, we'll need all the men we have." This question reflected not only Benteen's strategic instincts but also a deep concern for the safety of his fellow soldiers. Custer's curt response, "You have your orders," underscored the rigid nature of military hierarchy and hinted at the underlying tension between the two men. This brief exchange, while seemingly minor, reveals much about their relationship and the strain present within the command structure. Benteen's desire to keep the regiment unified contrasted sharply with Custer's unwavering adherence to his plans, showcasing the challenges of leadership in a high-stakes environment. In these moments, the weight of command pressed heavily on both men. Benteen's instincts as a leader clashed with the orders he was given, highlighting the internal conflict many officers faced in the chaos of war. As they moved closer to the conflict, the complexities of their relationship and the dynamics of military command became ever more pronounced, setting the stage for the unfolding drama that would soon envelop them all. While Benteen's concerns about the size of the encampment seemed valid, Custer's decision was final, and the regiment proceeded as planned, marching toward an uncertain fate. Years later, Charles Windolph recounted this moment with a different perspective. Seeking permission to trade horses with H Company's first sergeant, Joseph McCurry, Windolph inadvertently stumbled upon a conversation among the officers just before they crossed the divide. He overheard Charlie Reynolds mentioning that he had seen the largest group of Indians he had ever encountered. In response, Benteen once again expressed his unease about the regiment's strength, highlighting the growing tension within the ranks. Though the details of these accounts may differ slightly, the overall sentiment remains consistent. Benteen was increasingly uneasy about splitting their forces, while Custer's resolve remained unwavering. According to Wallace's recollections, the halt lasted between 7 and 9 minutes, a timeframe that seems reasonable given the circumstances. After gathering his battalion, Benteen passed Reno along the way. When Reno inquired about Benteen's destination, he replied that he was moving left to engage anything he encountered. As time went on, Benteen's resentment toward this mission grew. His sarcasm and sharp wit often shone during the Reno inquiry, yet these traits were notably absent in his letters to his wife, where a more somber tone emerged. During the inquiry, Benteen emphasized vehemently that he had never received any orders to unite with Reno's command, pointing out the disorganization of the operation. He claimed there was no coherent plan at all and characterized the Valley search as aimless. When pressed further, he clarified that had there been a battle plan, he would have been informed. His frustration was palpable as he stated, there was no battle plan. In General Custer's mind, he believed there were no Indians, no village. This testimony underscored Benteen's belief that Reno had no right to expect support from him, as Custer's strategy, if it existed, was never communicated. According to Benteen, Custer must have assumed that any reinforcements would come from behind, not from the front where Reno was situated. Given the considerable distance of the regiment from the village and what Custer likely perceived about the situation, Benteen's analysis holds weight. Custer was acutely aware of the risks of being caught from behind, and Benteen's mission was designed specifically to mitigate that risk. As Benteen set off to the left, Reno and Custer's columns continued their march toward the Little Bighorn River. While a solid battle plan may not have been fully in place, the wheels were clearly in motion. Despite his reservations and growing discontent, Benteen fulfilled his orders and played a crucial role in the unfolding events. His mission, whether embraced or resented, was pivotal in ensuring that the regiment wasn't flanked by unseen threats lurking in the upper valley.